brief screencast on how to use my Excel expense report template that's designed to work very specifically with QuickBooks. And what I mean by that is these fields here appear in the same order in which they have to be entered in QuickBooks. So the first thing when you enter a bill in QuickBooks is the payee line, or the who the bill is being made out to, so to speak. And so I've got that here first. And then the next thing is the date, and then the reference number would be the invoice number in QuickBooks. Now that's going to come up initially by default as a combination of employee and expense report date, because normally there wouldn't be an invoice number that you would get from your employee. This total is just to be consistent with QuickBooks, but it's also calculated based on what's below. And over here, this is not necessarily in QuickBooks. However, I do recommend, of course, that you put in the period, from, and to. And the way this is set up, you can actually highlight this range once it's been entered and copy and paste it into QuickBooks. Moving right along, you come down here, you enter the expense date. Now the expense is going to come from one of the accounts, and what I did was I mentioned where I posted this that we're going to set this up to make the employee do most of the work for us. This way I can just copy and paste into QuickBooks once it's been filled out. So I've created a drop down here which is populated from a list of expense accounts. And the way this works is I took the chart of accounts from QuickBooks, I exported it into Excel, and then I got rid of all the stuff that wouldn't apply, like I would never want a bank account here, or not very likely I'd want a fixed asset account of any kind. So I basically chiseled that list of accounts down to what would potentially appear on an expense report and populated that in. And I'm going to show you where that is and how to change it in a second. Then of course we'd put in the amount, a description, and then over here, this has nothing to do with QuickBooks, but what I do is I like to have them submit their receipts. So I have over here, I asked them to indicate the file name of the PDF, or it could be a JPEG or whatever you prefer, whatever you like. But the file name of the file that's associated with that receipt, so it's very clear to me where to go to get it. So that part doesn't get copied and pasted into QuickBooks, and that's why it's all the way out here to the right. Pretty much the description is going to go into my memo. So reviewing real quick, what I would do is, using the sample data, is let's just pick somebody. I've got Jenny Miller. The expense report date would be today when she's filling it out, and notice the reference number populates automatically. The period would be, let's just say, from a week ago, from 5/1 of 11 to 5/7/11, let's just say. And we'll pick an expense date. This would be the date of the receipt, the date when the expense was actually incurred. So let's say this happened on 5/2 of 11, and now we have to choose the expense. So again, Jenny's going to have to choose it when she's filling this out, so she has to figure out what makes sense. So let's just say it's office supplies. And the amount of the receipt, of course, let's say it's $32.50. Then she writes a description explaining it, and she's attached a PDF of the receipt, so she'll put the file name here. No problem. Now, why is this so easy to enter in QuickBooks? Well, because now I can just copy and paste the information. Now, of course, it's important when we set these lists up that they're spelled and formatted exactly the same way as they are in QuickBooks. Now, obviously, this vendor is not going to be included in my sample QuickBooks file, so we'll just add her in real quick. And there's also the first time you copy going to all these extra spaces. So let's add her in real quick. Quick add. And now that she's in, let's see if we've got an office supplies account. Of course we do. So the rest should work pretty well. Let's do it. So now I copy her. Come over to QuickBooks. I use my Alt-Tab key combination. Control-V to paste. I hit Tab, it finds her. The date. Come right over here, I tab over, Control-V, it's very easy now. I come over here and grab the reference number, Control-C, Control-V. The amount due, going back to the Excel report, is right here, so I formatted it that way. Control-V to paste it in. Then over here, this is designed so you can copy it right to the memo line. So you click and drag and highlight the from and the to dates. Then Alt-Tab, come right down here to the memo, Control-V to paste. And then we could take the office supplies account. And once again, Control-V to paste that, finds it. If you put a description in, we put that in, we copy and paste it, and we're done. Save and new. So that's the way this is designed to make it real easy. Now, how does this work? How do we get this to work? The answer is very simple. Over here in this list tab at the very bottom, you've got your two lists that you need to populate here. One is your employee list, and the other one is your account listing. Now, remember, these names have to be formatted and spelled exactly as they appear in QuickBooks. So that's why I suggest that you take the chart of accounts in QuickBooks and take your vendor and employee list in QuickBooks and export them to Excel. Then, chisel them down to just what you need, and then populate these lists. Now, if you need to, you can add lines to this. Just highlight an entire row. Make sure you add it from the bottom and up. If I add a line here, it's not going to work. If I add a line down here, not going to work. So what you'll want to do is from here or higher, you can highlight the whole row and just come over here to, you don't even need to go to the Insert tab. You've got it right here. You just insert a row. Very easy. And if you get some formatting, because I had something on the clipboard to be copied, you may want to correct that. But again, highlighting the whole row, the insert, and boom. And this will, whatever you put in here will show up in that employee list drop-down. The spreadsheet is designed that way. Whatever you put here in the account listing, same thing applies. Now note with sub-accounts, the way QuickBooks reads it, it's got to have a colon in between the parent account and the sub-account. So make sure if you're doing this manually that you format it accordingly. Otherwise, the copy and paste won't work. You'll get a prompt from QuickBooks to add a new account when you don't want to do that because the account's already there. You'll wind up with two instances of the same account or the same name, as the case might be, with a slight variation in the spelling, or maybe just a space or just a lack of a colon. So just be careful when you're formatting it. Now, if you want, you can purchase the full-length video that I have up in my Knowledge Center here on how to actually create this spreadsheet, and of course that'll walk you through the whole process of exporting from QuickBooks and populating these lists, and it walks you through how to design the whole report from a blank spreadsheet. So even if you have the template, it might be of interest to you just to learn a bunch of Excel and even some QuickBooks stuff. So as always, if you have any questions, email me, Seth@nerdenterprises.com. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.